On today's show, we talk about church campuses. You got separate buildings. Do you also need separate websites and online presences? All that and more on this episode of Ask Brady. Well, hey there, Pro Church Nation. Welcome to the Ask Brady Show, episode number 4. Got him! Episode number 4. So glad and grateful. You know what? That was disappointing. Like, when we're on episode 100, maybe it's hard to remember. It's been 4. And you're already like, I don't know how many there have been, but I did not remember because this is painful.
Well,
oh my gosh. Your questions about church, communications, media, digital, online, social, website, video, graphics, and more. No, I said video.
You already said video twice, so I thought you were making a running joke.
I said video twice, and so you said it a third time? This is just the Troll Brady Show, where Roxanne gets out all of her employee frustration and bitterness on camera for the world to see.
Passive aggressive.
That's an interesting question. Ask Roxanne, what's it like to work for Brady Shearer?
Oh, I think it's great. I always tell everybody that you're a really great boss.
In your face, Pro Church Nation. I don't know why I'm bitter against it. Anyway, so we are going to be answering questions today, as always, on this 4th episode of Ask Brady. You want your question answered? Hashtag Ask Brady, Twitter and Instagram. In the Facebook, YouTube comments below, just hashtag Ask Brady. Roxanne will find that question, and put it in our running list. And perhaps your question will be answered on a future session episode of this show. In the meantime, we've got 4 questions for episode 4. 4 questions for episode 4. Come on, that was good. No love.
I was thinking ahead because this guy asked on Twitter. So I was like, do I read out his Twitter handle as his name?
Because do we know his name?
Well, it is actually his name. Well, I'm assuming it's his name because it says Matt Peck. So.
Oh yeah, in future, if we don't have their name, we got to go at JimmyCakes47 asks.
Yeah.
Yeah, in future, we'll have to just read the handle. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Question 1. Here we go.
So,
let's do it. First question. Question 1. It's almost time.
Wait, so
3, 2, 1, 3,
2?
2, 1, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So the first question comes from Matt. Matt asks, we are opening a new campus. How do I add the campus to our website and advertise events that happen there and not the main campus?
So this is a difficult question to answer because it's lacking some important context for me. One thing that you can do, and I've seen churches with campuses do, is that when you land on their website, so you go to mychurch.com, first thing you're presented at is choose your campus, right? So, okay, are you at the Niagara campus? Are you at the St. Catharines campus, Welland campus, Waynfleet campus, Port Colborne campus, name more places, Jonas. Port Dalhousie campus. I knew there was another port. Now, that's our region. But likely what's happening, for some reason, what I assume is happening in this case is that you have an established church already and you're adding a brand new campus, and it can feel weird giving as much focus and attention and resources to this brand new, very small campus in comparison to your big campus, right? Because the way that kind of video website segmentation works is that you land on the website and then you choose your campus. The problem is, if one campus is 1,000 people and the other campus is brand new and 100 people, it feels weird to do that because it's going to be really weird segmentation because 9 out of 10 times, one of those will be chosen and the other won't. And then it's just a hindrance to the people visiting the website. Same thing goes for social media. Do you start brand new social pages for each of these campuses? Are you as a church doing individual campus pastors at each that are doing their own sermons? That's the way we did it. We had one pastor that always spoke, one pastor that always spoke. Or are you doing the simulcast recorded video sort of thing where you as the campus pastor kind of do the announcements, maybe the setup, maybe the close, but you've got the main teaching pastor for the whole church doing the message, right? And so there are so many distinctions that can be made that would help with making this decision. What I do know is that if your goal, let's talk about if the goal was to have like 2 separate campuses. I think it's okay to have 2 separate social media pages, 2 separate websites. We talked about this on the last episode of Ask Brady. Someone was asking, like, within a single church, which ministry should get their own Facebook page. We said that the rule that we like to follow is if a ministry has its own worship service, aside from the Sunday service, that would make them tall enough to ride the roller coaster, and that would deem fitting for them to have their own social page. Same thing goes with this. There's a totally different worship service happening in a totally different building. And so they probably could have their own website. That's an easy solution too, right? Like if you have one big campus and one very small campus, if you try to bring those 2 things together into one, what likely happens is you end up trying to serve 2 audiences with one platform. We all know what happens when you try to do too much with too little. You don't end up doing either thing well. You're serving both audiences poorly. We talk about this with our Nucleus project. We think every church should have 2 websites. Their main website, which is for new visitors, let's say mychurch.com, and then your other website for your existing congregation, mychurch.info. Same name, different suffix to the URL. That is the preferred distribution of your online presence. Because what happens is most church websites in the last 10 years have shifted where they're primarily built and the messaging is targeting new visitors. You land on the website and what do you see? Kind of an explanation of our church, service times, like what's that for? Well, if you're a part of the church already, you know service times. Most websites for churches are now targeted at new visitors. And where does the information for the existing church land? It's in the back. If you click this navigation menu, you get a drop down. If you click that one, it'll redirect you to the page where you can find the information on the calendar. No wonder nobody knows what's going on. You're trying to use one platform to serve 2 audiences. We don't want to do this with the campus as well. So the one route you can take is you can do that segmentation thing. It's probably better to have 2 separate online presences for both campuses, completely separate. Facebook for one, website for one, Instagram for one, same for the other. The problem is, what's the natural response to this, Roxanne? Well, we can't do both. We're barely doing Facebook good for the one church. And this is where churches very, very frequently, vastly overlook the importance of an online presence for a church. You likely, after launching this second campus, have spent the last 6 to 18 months doing extensive planning for how you're going to manage the operations of a second campus. Okay, how are we going to have a second worship team? How are we going to get the message at both places? What about volunteers? What about kids ministry? You've thought all about this. What about the location? When are we going to, we're going to have the same worship team at both. We got to have a different time for both. And you probably haven't thought too much about the online presence, right? That's really upsetting because it's equally important. And now you're like, well, maybe we'll just auto post from the other one, right? And again, this is a common theme throughout these first couple episodes of Ask Brady. The importance of having a strong physical presence, which most of our churches have because we've been spending decades on them, but now also an equally strong digital presence. You're going to spend a lot of time, money, resources allocated on your 1 hour per week service, 90 minute per week service.
What?
90 minute, 2 hour, whatever it is. And then you're going to be like, oh, right, we have another 167 hours in this week. Well, let's just take the message and we'll post it up there, right? It's an afterthought. It shouldn't be. We're moving away from that. It's not going to be like that way forever. One of the analogies, and I know I'm going along on this answer, one of the analogies that we've been talking about a lot internally at Pro Church Tools is that guy that works his upper body in the gym. There's this guy that goes to my gym. I don't know his name. I call him Popeye in my head. And Popeye has a beast of an upper body. Dude's arms are anacondas. His chest is like 2 45-pound plates. You know the big plates? It's like there's 2 of them right here. Dude's a monster. Popeye. His legs, it's like a broccoli floret. Big top, little skinny bottom. And you're like, dude, your arms are crush. Maybe allocate some of those resources somewhere else, right? And the problem is, Popeye does not attend gym workouts on his own. Popeye has buddies. And they're all the same, and they're like, bro, arms, clutch. Bro, your chest? Those pecs? Nailed it. It's dope, fam. Actually, they probably don't use those words. But point being, they all kind of gather together and complement each other. We do the same thing in the church world. We're focusing so much on our upper body. We focus so much on our services. We're like, I already have an amazing service. I can already see the pump in my arm. And instead of focusing on leg day, what do? We make our production even better. We make our stage design even better. We're in there every day in the gym doing arms day, upper body, chest, shoulders, traps, lats, haps, clats, making things up. And we don't ever do leg day. We got these skinny little legs. Legs are the online platforms for churches. And they're an afterthought. You know what? If I talked to Popeye about his arms, he'd be like, well, sometimes I have to pick up dumbbells and I have to bend over to pick them up. That's legs. Churches do the same thing, right? We're like, we take our message and we post it online, so we check the box on legs. No. You gotta focus on legs as their own entity, their own separate thing. We've got these unhealthy bodies of churches. We've got these unhealthy church bodies because there's just no overall holistic health. Got these amazing weekend services, this giant upper body. We're completely neglecting our online lower body.
You're right. Can I tell a quick story?
I would love to hear a quick story, Roxanne.
You could cut it out if you don't want it. But going back to the original question of campuses and having separate platforms for them, I attended a campus and I wanted to join a small group, and it was incredibly hard to figure out which small groups were for my campus and which small groups were for I realized the main campus isn't that far. It's a 15-minute drive from where I live. But it still felt like a huge inconvenience.
Different city.
Now I have to drive, meet all new people that I don't know because I don't attend this church. I attended the campus. And it was just because they use the same platform to advertise their two small groups, all their small groups. And it's I don't know what's happening.
In the instance that you're talking about, you had one really big main church and one much smaller campus. Yeah. And the main church is we don't want to have a whole separate platform for this campus. But what happened was that campus didn't get served the way they needed to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Great. Let's move on to the next question.
Anyways, all right. Question 2 comes from Scott. Scott asks, what's your opinion on a church revealing the worship set list to the congregation via social media before the weekend service? Does this add or take away from the impact of each song?
Yeah, so this has become a common social media post that churches consistently publish. And basically, it's an image, and you got 4 songs coming up. Oceans, kind of follow up with Oceans. Probably go into a deep dive in Oceans. Slow jam, close out on Oceans, right? Whatever it is that you're doing as your worship set. Churches will share this on Friday, maybe Saturday, and then you come to church with expectation. You're like, I know these songs are going to get played. I love it. Don't see too much downside to it. Only potential downside is if you've got some really terrible people attending your church. They say, they're only playing Oceans 4 times. I want it 5 times. I ain't coming this week.
Howdy.
I'll just put it on repeat on Spotify, right? So I think that's the only downside, right? This person, what's this person's name? Shane.
Scott.
Started with an S. Got it. Scott is thinking, we share these songs. People say, realize the songs that I like aren't getting played, and they don't show up. If anything, I actually like this better, assuming your church isn't full of terrible people. Obviously I'm being facetious, Scott. But if what can happen is someone sees the 4 songs, they go, I know 2 of them, I don't know the other 2. Maybe I'll give them a listen on Spotify. Come to church and you know them, and then you can join in the corporate worship. So I think this is a great way to kind of build anticipation for Sunday. And we've talked a lot about online presence, physical presence. At the end of the day, what is this doing? It's using online to build expectation for physical, and we want to move towards using online as its own entity, making disciples online also through digital platforms, not just saying, Sunday's coming. But I like this post. I think it's a good way to mix things up, and it usually, from what we've seen, performs pretty well. So go for it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that and how many times do you go to church, hear a song, and then be like, I have to remember those lyrics to Google them later. When you're listening to the radio and you're like, I have to remember. And now all the radios have those I don't even know what they're called. When you go on their website,
right?
They have the last 15 songs.
You can't Shazam a worship experience, people. I mean, if you're in worship, you're like, I'm trying to. cannot
What
recognize.
song was
I gotta
it?
walk closer to the stage, right up next to the stage, holding up your phone. What song is this?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Question 3 is from Carter. Carter asks, how often should you change your website design, like a total overhaul and redesign?
The best way to probably answer this question is to say that you likely know when your website needs a redesign. You know, it's like when you're in denial because you're stepping on the scale and you're like, this is a little bit heavier than I used to be. But it's not that bad. I mean, sure, I was 150 and now I'm 165. No. But to the end of the day, and I'm
I
probably...
ate a lot. Drink tons of water.
The amount of water, the amount of Canada Dry I crushed today. And that's not regular water. It's water fortified with carbonation. That's bubbles.
All that extra
it's all
air.
I'm probably 153.
It's air weight.
You wake up in the morning, you're 164, 1 pound lighter. You're like, I didn't sleep well. And it's like,
Left over from yesterday.
right, it's like, you know when your website needs a redesign. I think what Carter's looking for is a rule of thumb, right?
Yeah.
Because what you need Carter probably knows if his website needs a redesign. Carter probably knows that, this is not a good scene. But he probably needs to convince the rest of his church.
Right.
And this is why we talk so much about having guidelines, rules of thumb, right? Because then it's not arbitrary. It's not like it's your opinion. Hey, we're just following the rules. You got to be this tall to ride the roller coaster. Your website has to be this good to not deserve a redesign. So, I mean, one easy rule would be like every 2 to 3 years. The internet does change pretty rapidly. That would be a reasonable guideline, a reasonable rule of thumb to consider. But the other thing to think about is, has there been a really big change in the way that we interact online that would warrant breaking that schedule and updating early? So for instance, 5 years ago, responsive design kind of became a necessity. Everything used to be desktop first. We're going to be visiting websites on our laptops, on our desktops. And then suddenly, these stinkers became wildly popular and responsive design became a must. It wasn't like a nice secondary add-on. It became a must. And what did people do? What did a lot of churches do? They installed plugins on their WordPress sites that would create an automatic mobile version of your site. So if you visited on phone, it looked nothing like the desktop, but it took the words and made it mildly readable on a phone. And this was church's way of saying, check the box, we have a mobile design. But you don't, right? And now we're at the point where a lot of websites are being designed mobile first. Nucleus project, nucleus.church, going live in April. That's completely designed to be mobile first. When you visit the website, it acts more like an app than a traditional website, which is great. It looks great on desktop and tablet as well, but it was built mobile first. So we're moving more into a mobile first world where people have their phones on them 24/7, desktops. I mean, I got rid of my laptop and now I just go on an iPad at home. So, things are changing. So the two things I'd say are, 1, 2 to 3 years is probably a good rule of thumb. We redesigned Pro Church Tools in 2016, and that was the first time since 2014. It had been 2 years. We're redesigning it again this year because we're making a massive change to our platform. So that has nothing to do with web trends, more has to do with internal stuff. And that's another consideration. If your church has undergone a big change, a rebrand, a big campus push, a new building, anytime there's a big change in your actual church, that's a good reason to do a big change with your physical presence, right? We're talking online, physical. Big change in the physical world, make that big change in the online world as well. One thing that I use a lot in my habits, when I'm trying to make changes in my own life, is if I'm going to have a big change that's coming about naturally. We moved into this new office 2 months ago. It totally changed my day-to-day life. Suddenly I wasn't working in my garage with all of you guys, 2 steps from my house, wearing track pants and sweaters all the time. Suddenly I had to actually get in my car. It's a 2-minute drive, but I still gotta have a shower. Suddenly I'm not working from home. I'm having showers every day. That's a big change for some of us. And so
big change for all of us.
But I approached this big change and was like, okay, a lot of stuff is gonna change. I'm gonna use that as a catalyst to make other changes as well. You can do the same thing with your online platform when big physical changes are happening in your church. Got a new pastor? Maybe you make a new website. New building? Maybe a new website. Launch a campus? New website. Rebrand? Maybe new website, right? And so that's another thing to consider. So 3 big takeaways. 1, 2 to 3 years is a pretty good rule of thumb. Number 2, if there's a big change in your physical world of the church, consider making the big change online. Number 3, if there's a huge change in online, like 5 years ago when mobile responsiveness became a must very quickly, preemptively go early based on your last redesign. Don't follow that 2 to 3 year thing. Move fast.
Right. All right, so question 4 comes from Jeremy. Jeremy asks, thank you for this video series. We're watching from Dallas, Fort Worth area. We typically do live announcements. The question I have with doing live announcements, we usually have 3 to 4 service hosts that we rotate on a regular basis who share the announcements. I will usually write out the announcement speaking points. With the formula, what's the best way to have the host share a story? Does it have to be personal? Can it be a story within the church that I've written a script for the host to follow? What are your thoughts?
So Jeremy is talking and makes reference to our church announcement formula. Story plus a single call to action. One call to action. Not 2, not 3, not 4. 1. That's why Nucleus is so awesome. You can just say, go to mychurch.info. What's the next announcement? I don't know. Go to mychurch.info. Hey, where should we? Mychurch.info. Yeah, but where should we? Mychurch.info. Yeah, but go away. Go to mychurch.info. But the first part of that formula is story. Whether you're doing video announcements or live announcements, we highly encourage you to use story and thus inspiration rather than logistical information that is not going to get retained, will be forgotten, will be ignored, will be a waste of time and service. And so this question we've actually got a lot is because sometimes the person that's scripting the announcements isn't the person that's presenting the announcements. This happens with the 100+ clients we work with at Pro Video Announcements. They're doing the scripting, we're doing the presenting. They're not going to script a personal story and then ask me to read it. Be like, oh, it was like that one time I was with my wife in Dallas and we went to get barbecue and I said to my son, Grover, and I said, Grover.
Obviously, you know nothing about the South.
I can't. The name I was gonna go with was like, I don't know what it was, but it was like some.
With his friend Elmo.
That's too simple. It's gotta be something completely different. And his friend
Bob the
Kermit. Different puppet. Different puppet universe. Is that a different puppet universe? Sesame Street and the Muppets? I feel like they're different, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was all Jim Henson's, concoction.
They have crossovers. It's like the whole Marvel universe with like crossovers.
What's the one where Marvel they all join together and
Avengers?
They fight everybody? The Avengers? Oh my goodness, the Muppet Avengers, like
Muppet
Piggy,
Avengers.
Grover, Elmo, the Count. 1, 2, 3. Look at all of us. Okay, so don't know what the question is. Got it, remembered. So story plus a single call to action. Even in Jeremy's case, where he's producing in-church announcements, and he's got a bunch of different presenters, this is actually very similar to what we do at my church. We take a hybrid approach. We do our announcements in 2 different ways, not all at once. This breaks them up. I do not write the details for the announcements. I do put together the stories. And so what my church will do is they'll say, okay, we want to promote groups. This is where people can sign up. This is what we want them to know. I take that logistical information and that single call to action, and then I create a story to go before that, use as the inspiration to push people to the call to action. So we did this, and I talked about how recently my family and I, we went to this kids play place Saturday morning, and we ran into this person, and we started talking with them. Turns out they actually go to Central. We spoke for an hour before we ever knew that. And I was leaving that place, and I was like, this person is 40 years older than me. They're different gender, different stage of life. They don't even have kids. They were there with their daughter and her kids. And yet we talked for an hour about our lives. I learned so much about her. I was like, that's what church is meant to be. How often, though, are you going to run into someone randomly at a kid's play place, a different generation, and talk? Almost never. That's what we have groups for. Then I go to that single call to action. My story, their logistical information. So if you have 3 to 4 different presenters, you can get them to use their own stories and then push to the actual logistical information and single call to action that you script together. That's if you want to go 100% personal stories. But you also don't have to use only personal stories. What I just shared was a personal story. I, Brady, and family went to Cheeky Monkey the kids' play place and ran into someone. This is my personal anecdote. But you can also tell current event stories and church stories. There's 3 different types. And current event stories and church stories are ones that you can actually write yourself and have other presenters actually end up presenting because they're not personal anecdotes. So you can tell a story in the church of how, this person came to know God and it was all because of groups. And they had a great time in group. They didn't really feel like they fit in at church. They found a group where they had a friendship. And suddenly, this church that seemed so big became small because they made personal connections and now have friends. In fact, they met their spouse, getting married, 4 kids. And today, we're dedicating those kids. Great church story that I made up, not personal. Anyone can present that. You can also use current events. I do this all the time. We had a crazy comeback in the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago. And what did I do? Well, the next morning on Instagram, I used the Super Bowl story as an illustration and then pivoted and talked about something with church communications. So you could have done that in your announcements. Anybody could talk about the Super Bowl. It's a common point that everyone understood. Whether or not you watched it, you're like, oh yeah, sports, football, Super Bowl, that's a big thing. And so those are the 3 different types of stories. So if you don't want to use personal anecdotes, you can use current event stories or global church stories. And if you do want to do personal stories, allow your presenters to come up with them on their own. You just give them the steps, the logistics, and the call to action. Allow them to inject a story on their own.
Are you the only host at Central?
I think similarly to Jeremy, we have 3. I think we have 3.
Do they do the same thing as you? Like sometimes they'll make their own stories, or
yeah.
And did they get trained that way, or was it like instinctive, like they've seen you do it?
Yeah, I think it actually happened like through osmosis because I remember that I got hired on. I began volunteering to do the announcements.
Right.
And I immediately started using this formula. And, we're a really big church. And so change happens slowly. But not in this case. I started noticing like the next week, like the other presenters were doing something very similar. And, I think it's because, what I bring to the announcements is what no regular person ever should have, which is, 20,000 plus announcements that I've presented for hundreds of churches worldwide. And so like there's a certain amount of expertise and just experience that comes with that.
Right.
And so I think they immediately recognized it as, this is so much better than remembering 80 different dates, times, locations, prices, emails, phone numbers, next steps, go to the desk, talk to Pastor Sheila, never talk to Pastor Sheila, go to the Connect desk, blue wall in the lobby, hand in your card, get the card back, we'll give you a free gift. It's exhausting. And so I think they immediately recognized, oh, this is a better way, and kind of like just naturally through osmosis started doing it themselves. We're all wired to tell stories, right? Like it's in our DNA. You look at any culture throughout history, you look at the way Christ focused his teaching, it's telling stories and listening to stories. You don't even have to really teach it. We have a course on storytelling that breaks down specific steps so you can become an expert, but we all do it naturally.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how it kind of happened through osmosis. It was just like, oh, this feels better. Let's just do it.
Yeah. I just didn't know if there was like oh yeah, I've trained people to learn the same skills.
Right.
Like hosting, I guess. Anyways.
That does it for this episode of Ask Brady. Question of the day for you, Pro Church Nation, is if your church has multiple campuses, I want to know, how do you set up the online presences for those? Do you have one main campus, everything filters through there? Do you use that website segmentation landing page where the first thing you see is choose your campus? Or do you have separate presences, Facebook, Instagram, website, for each individual campus? Let me know in the comments below. I want to see how other churches are doing it. Thanks for watching. If you want your question answered, hashtag Ask Brady, Twitter and Instagram, hashtag Ask Brady in the comments below on YouTube and Facebook. We'll see you next time.